I'm a guy from Dalton. I grew up in Pleasant Street in Dalton. I still have my best friends are from Dalton. I'm a Berkshire guy, and and when I drive, into the Berkshires coming from Boston, just when you start going past Springfield and you start going, I feel it. I feel more at home. This is home. Born in 1952, so I'm part of the post-World War baby boom. And I think, if you grew up in the 50s in America, it's like winning the lottery. I was a middle child. I had an older brother. I had a younger sister. My father worked, like everybody else's father, worked at GE. My mother worked at GE for a little while before she had kids. Our house, it's kind of fittingly so. I lived on Pleasant Street, and in our backyard was woods. Walk maybe a mile and a half, you could be on the Appalachian Trail. I ended up going to Union College, which is in Schenectady, New York, another GE town, about an hour and 20 minutes from Dalton. And I usually got there by hitchhiking, which is probably unfathomable in today's world. And during this course of time, I've changed my major like 5 times. And my senior year, I decided I was going to become an economics major. And my focus was on underdeveloped countries and developmental economics. And you had to do a thesis. I did a thesis on the Peace Corps. I thought I was going to go into the Peace Corps. But it didn't happen. Between my junior and senior year, I met my wife Gail and moved to Boston right out of college, got a job I didn't like, that it was high unemployment. It was a really tough time to get out of college. Decided there must be something different to do than working at a job in an insurance company. And I applied to graduate schools in business, and I got into Harvard. So when I got out of business school, I still wasn't business oriented. I had a job with what was then Health, Education, and Welfare in Washington, D.C. I got a little apartment between Georgetown University and American University, and realized that the federal government can have budget freezes. So there was a budget freeze, and the job that we thought that I would get, I had, but they couldn't start it. So I had no income. So had to knock on doors. I just got out of Harvard Business School. I'm willing to do dishes, whatever you want. So I ended up working as some different consulting firms down in Washington. Had my first child, Brian, in Washington, and then ended up taking a job which is a company called AT&T, but at that time AT&T owned everything. Had a second child, Mark, and then did that for a few years, and ended up taking a job with the Providence Journal Company in Rhode Island, which owned the newspaper, but it was a privately held company that, a lot of them, they owned cable, television, radio, and they were looking at wireless communications businesses, which was changing at that time. So I got involved in paging companies and the cellular telephone industry very early. Shortly thereafter, formed a company with 3 guys that I knew pretty well from doing business with during the past few years, and we formed a company called Columbia Capital, based in Washington, D.C., where we were doing 2 things. We were doing basically merger and acquisition work, where we would help people buy and sell companies related to wireless, and that we were investing our own money, any money that we were making. None of us really started with any money that we were making, we were investing it into startups, for early stage companies related in the industry. I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia. I was in South America. I've been to Myanmar. Now, how many people? I've been to Myanmar 3 times. I've been in Vietnam a few times. I've been in Cambodia probably half a dozen times. Laos. Been all. I thought I was going to create, work in emerging markets. I thought that was my path. I was just going to do that, but it didn't happen, and so I got a little tired. I was doing international travel all the time.
Right.
It's pretty wearing. So I'd say I stopped doing international oriented stuff about 8 years ago, which coincides with what?